Make important career predictions with Val Evans' latest book, available now.
Hello, everyone. It's Val Evans. Hope you're doing great today. And I am talking today about super wealth, how to predict it. A lot of astrologers say that it is obvious in your birth chart. And if it's not in your birth chart, then, or obvious in your birth chart, then you're probably not going to reach super wealth. There are certain individuals that we've seen in the news that we know about who have just gone on to become uber wealthy. And I'm going to tell you today what I see in their charts. It's pretty interesting because sometimes you can't see it in a birth chart, as I said, but it can be evident in a progressed chart or even a solar return chart, which is going to show you your prediction for the year. So, hey, Frankie Blue Big Puppy, I love that. And Psychic Roberto, nice to see you. Taurus Moon Tarot is here. So, all right, there are a few things in these charts that we're going to look at that I really like, and I'm going to show you what they are. Before we do that, we're going to go to, if you're interested in pulling your own chart, you're going to look at your chart on AstroSeek. Then you're going to pull whether it is a secondary progression chart for your progressed chart or a solar return chart for your year. Starting on your birthday. So if your birthday hasn't come yet this year, you're going to do the 2023 solar return. And I put a quick list here: the Grand Cross, Pluto, Point of Fortune, Moon, Venus, and Regulus. You don't have to have all of them. You have to have some of them. So let's take a look first at how I like it to look in a chart. And there's the solar only, by the way, the solar only tab that you're going to click for solar return chart, but it's the grand trine, the coveted grand trine. We see it sometimes in a birth chart of someone who is extremely famous, but we also see that it starts to create or be created in the progress chart slowly, and it can be at any age. It could be suddenly forms in your progress chart, maybe when you're 20, or maybe when you've put in a lot of work as a mom or a parent. You've slaved away, and then suddenly at 60 years old, something happens, and that grand trine is created. So here are some of the other planets that I like. I love Jupiter, Moon, Point of Fortune, Pluto, and Venus. And if they are at points of the grand trine, even better. But if they are just in a trine, that's fine too. And if they are, joining some other planets in a stellium, that's always very strong too. In other words, a Venus, Pluto, and a moon together, or Point of Fortune, Moon, and Pluto. If you want uber wealth, I have seen, and this is my opinion, Pluto needs to be in there. Pluto means uber. So you got to have it. And that is a good planet to look for in your charts. All right, so we're going to go to, this is MrBeast, Jimmy Donaldson. I'm so intrigued with this man because he's a YouTuber. He slaved away. Everyone thought it was crazy when he first uploaded his first videos. I remember there was one where I think he just read the dictionary, and everyone was so intrigued about the fact that he would just do that. And he started to just do crazy things online. But as in anything that you're going to do, there is a Plutonian energy of transformation. And suddenly, little by little, his videos transformed into big money-making productions. And actually, let me go and show you. You've probably already seen them, but he went through a study period, a deep research period of YouTube. And it was pretty amazing. Let me pull it up here. You can see he does a lot of very compelling content, a lot that has to do with games because he's a Leo. He's a Leo rising. Beast, which he's called MrBeast, and it was chosen for him when he was playing video games when he was younger. He thought it was a cool name, so he's going to go with it. And so he went on to do really big videos that have to do with games, which is of course Leo. And it started out as just a kid, and now he's worth 500 million, but they call him a billionaire. So he even did research on, I mean, first of all, his videos are phenomenal, but he did research on what thumbnails would look the best. And he came up with this formula where it has to be brighter, it has to be a certain font, it has to have certain elements in it. And then that added to the, the popularity of his videos. All right, so now I'm going to go to his chart. And Donaldson, we always talk about how if you have Sun or Sen, S-E-N in your name, it's a Leo name. And you can also see that he's a Leo because he has he's got a lot of hair. And he's a pretty big guy, too. All right, so this is his birth chart. And the one thing that you could pick out from his birth chart is that he has Saturn on the MC. Now, that usually means a very long career. And you can see that in Queen Elizabeth II's chart. You can see it in Paris Hilton's chart. She's been famous her whole life, basically. So Saturn in the MC shows a long career. The other thing, too, that you can see in his chart, and this isn't true for every uber, wealthy person, but he does have Regulus on his second house. So, or his second house is placed, the cusp is placed in the last degrees of Leo, which means financial rewards, gold. You actually see a lot of gold when you are seeing his videos and his productions. So I gotta jump to the comments here. That does not surprise me. Sun, Pluto, and Mars grand trine. Absolutely. So one of the things that you would do if you saw a grand trine is you would see, okay, if I've got Mars, if I've got Pluto, you would see what those planets, what signs they're in. And when you activate the energy of those, then that's going to activate the trine. So great that you have Pluto. And the sun can be royal things because the sun represents Leo. So, and you're already doing a royal show. So that's very interesting. Also would be interested to see what Mars is in for you. I have 2 grand trines. I don't know what you're saying. Oh, Gemini. And hey, Melanie, nice to see you. So yeah, grand trines, absolutely. They are amazing to have in your chart. And Gemini, you should be speaking then. So you should be on television, and you are. So that's a good thing. You're working in, in conjunction with the grand trine. All right. So Regulus number 1. So let's look at where the Lord of MrBeast's second chart or second house is. It's right there in the 10th house. So he is being seen for all to see. The 10th house is everybody sees you. You can't hide. And there is a sextile to Jupiter. Now, Jupiter rules his 5th house of games. So he's activating when he plays games on TV, and that started with video games, but now it's just games and competitions. It is enhancing his financial house. And it's very possible that he might not have gone this route. Maybe he went a different route. He would not have been able to activate that financial, part of his chart. Now, Jupiter in Pisces is film. and also being very creative too. Leos are creative as well as real, Pisces. So lots and lots, Jupiter, of videos, which would be, I want to say Neptune, but Pisces. So, and then we also have lots of Sagittarius. I like Sagittarius when it comes to creators because it shows that there's a Hollywood version. And now I know we're talking about his birth chart, and it's not always going to be the case, like I said, but he does have an amazing, amazing trine with Pluto and Venus. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Then sextile to the moon, and that is a lot of fame, lots of fame. And when would he have fame? He would activate the third house, which is to speak. So you gotta activate it if you want it. All right. Let's see. That's Regulus. I got that. So this was when he, and I'm not going to stay too long on this, these charts for MrBeast, but take a look. This is when his chart progresses. This is his first year of really thinking that he wants to be on YouTube, and he decides to upload his first video. And so you can see that he was a Leo rising that year. So lots of Leo types of things are going to come in, including maybe the name that he wants to use, which is MrBeast. And we have the Sun and Mars, which is super, super ambitious, ready to go, wants to do things in a fast way. And you can see the trine to Neptune here in the 6th house of work. That is interesting for the progressed year. And I've seen a lot of people have this where you've got a Neptune, which is, it can be confusion, not knowing what you want to do for a career, which is really what he was going through at that point. He didn't really want to go to college. And so there's a square. Let's see, where it is. A square to Saturn here, which can show confusion. 9th house is higher learning. He's not interested in any higher learning. So he's having to deal with that challenge. And all he wants to do is activate this blue line, the trine to the videos, which is here. And interesting that this little duo up here is activating Taurus, which is money. Taurus is money. So you can see a chart like this and go, oh God, what are all those red lines? But if you can really pull out some of the things that, can indicate wealth or luck, I mean, they are in there and you can. Now, notice that the North Node is in the 1st house, and the North Node is what you receive. So with the 1st house of identity, he received a new identity. It's pretty wild. And then the other thing too is Mercury is on his MC of career. That is speaking, talking, communicating. And that would be part of his interest. It's so funny too, because Mercury in Taurus is talking about trees. And I think that's one of the most famous things he had ever done. And it wasn't in 2012, but I think it was a seed that was planted where he wanted to, it was a huge environmental, it was like a campaign encouraging kids to plant trees. And I think they planted like 1 million trees or something like that. And he got the help with, he got so many partners to help him. So it was just an unbelievable venture that he did. All right, that was 2012. And then check this out. This is when he becomes MrBeast. This is his solar return chart. This is when he starts to get, this is still that first year when he does his first video. And he's got a Grand Cross. And so I just wanted to point that out, that the Grand Cross sometimes can show that, you're really limited. You don't have a lot of help. You don't have a lot of money. You might not have support from your mom, which he did not at that time. She really wanted him to go to college, but he is just on fire here. And you can see that there is a grand trine. So you got a grand cross, but you also have a grand trine. Now let's look at the grand trine for a second. We've got part of fortune in Taurus, okay, for money. Then you've got Jupiter, which is an enhancement of the fortune. Then you've got the trine to Pluto, which is huge, huge success. And then up at the top, and Amber at Taurus Moon Tarot, I'm thinking of you with Mars there. Mars there, in for him, it would be Virgo. So usually when Mars is part of a grand trine, it can show lots of just fast success. It really, whether it might not be success for him this year, it might be more that he's focused on success, and it's really helping him to be ambitious and move forward. So I would say that this grand trine that year really boosted him into success online on YouTube. There's a couple of other things there too. You can see that Venus too is in Gemini. If you're on TV or you want to be on TV, a nice benefic in Gemini is always, welcome, especially in like a solar return. It's going to show you when it comes in. And so you can see how there would be a lot of money for a long period of time that was going to come in. Venus in Gemini is money on TV, and sextiling Mercury would be talking about sports. So he's talking about competitions there. Now his mainstream, this is the last one, his mainstream success, okay? This is the solar, this is not the uploads, this is solar return 2021. First of all, it's really important to look at your charts and see how the ascendant is moving into another sign. This means that you're about to leave and you're about to transform into something else. Notice how this would be the last year, which was the last degree of Capricorn. And for him, he's about to move into Aquarius. This is kind of like a clue there. If you get this either in your progress chart or your solar return chart for that year, it's exciting because it's like, okay, I'm about to graduate. So this is kind of like the graduation point. Now notice that he's got my favorite, the moon and part of fortune in here, in an amazing mini grand trine pointed right at the second house of wealth. He is on his way. Look at what's on the other side of this is Venus in Taurus, which is a lot of money. Now, of course, success, it doesn't always mean just money, but he's got his MC in Scorpio, and it is trining the second house. And so what is Scorpio? Well, he's using psychology. He uses psychology a lot for his videos, and he's testing it out. It's also, Scorpio can also be something where you sense things that other people don't. There's a psychic quality to it. And it also means other people's money too. So, or other people's resources. So people are helping him. Could be sponsors at that point. I mean, this was just recently. So he's already a millionaire at this point, and it just keeps coming in. An MC trine to the second house with part of fortune and the moon. Oof, that's going to be a good year. Even if you don't have this trine, you can have part of fortune in the second house and it's nice to have a trine to the part of fortune. Still really nice too. And the other thing too, that's really interesting about this is Neptune. Where's Neptune? Yeah. Neptune rules the second house. So that is really good. Jupiter also rules the second house, and it's in a square. So it doesn't mean that for him that year, it's all perfect. It can show maybe some setbacks. The 11th house, that could be YouTube, that could be social media, that could be things that are costly to him, that are taking money from him. And you can see when you see a T square like this, this is going to be things that are going to hold you back that year. It might even be home responsibilities. Fourth house is home. It might not even have to do with his YouTube, but maybe things that keep you from maybe uploading as many videos as you want. So, but on the whole, this is a pretty amazing chart. And like I said, it happened because it's a solar return. It doesn't necessarily need to be your birth chart. All right. So, and we're glad. Thanks, Genevieve. And you have a grand trine, Moon, Neptune, and Saturn. Whoa, that is excellent. And can give great results if you're activating it. That's very psychic. So, hey, Lucy, nice to see you. And so you've got to tap into maybe some more things that have to do with your intuition. And sometimes I see this in charts where people, let's say it's Jupiter, it could be your mate. And they don't agree, or it could be, maybe if you're a teenager, it's your mom or somebody in there that doesn't support you. And so it can hold back that grand trine. And it's up to you to learn how to activate it. All right, so let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. All right. Now this is J.K. Rowling. And of course, super wealthy, came from no wealth, really, had a terrible divorce, really was kind of bummed out, depressed when she turned in her book. And Jupiter retrograde shows, a husband who, and I don't know if she was married or divorced at that point. I think she was, but just kind of like this, in many ways, I think, probably inspired her, the Jupiter retrograde. But Jupiter also represents publishing. So let me just put the right color in with the ascendant in Capricorn. She's going to feel like a Capricorn this year, which is a very hard worker. She's going to keep going. People are going to tell her something, and she's going to just continue to do her thing. She's going to be stubborn. Saturn in Taurus. Taurus is very stubborn. And isn't it interesting? Here's a really great example of if you have a solar return and your rising sign is conjunct part of fortune, you can just ask for anything you want and you will feel successful that year. You will get it if you put it out there. Now, with the trine here to Mercury, Mercury is not only words and communication, but she's talking about her book, and it is right on Regulus. So she's got that Regulus strength. It's gold. Whatever she's saying is gold. And I love that, that aspect there. And so in this check mark also adds to, the whole signature of it. When you have South Node, that's a good thing. It shows a flow. When you have a good aspect to one node, or well, you're always going to have good aspects or bad aspects at the same time. So if you have a good aspect to North Node, you will with South Node, and that means that you're able to leave things behind and accept new things. It's like a flow. It's kind of like rowing a boat. If you are in a square with those nodes, you're stuck. You can't row anywhere. So that wasn't the case for her. She was able to just go. But it should also give you some inspiration too. There's a grand cross here. I'm sorry, not grand cross. There's a T square here. And the T square would show that there is an issue. Pluto can represent jealousy. People try to stop what you're trying to do. So I'm not sure what her exact story is, but it does seem like there was jealousy. This would be the year I think she released Harry Potter in the US. Sagittarius is the US. So she's trying like heck. And there are people who just don't want her words, Mercury. They don't want her gold words. But there are people who are accepting of them. So you can see the trine there. The sun is in the 7th house. This is partnerships and customers. So somehow she's able to get to her customers, even though there are jealous people in the US. The book launch, I believe it was August. I always like an August launch because it is in, the month of Leo where Regulus is. And so the second house, you would start, this is July 31st. Well, maybe I'm wrong about that. July 31st. So I guess it was September. But so this would be July 31st to August 31st, August 31st to September 31st. So still a really amazing time frame. Closer, I would say, maybe the first. I'll have to look up when she had that book launch, but this was the month for her. And of course, you use your solar return based on the day that you were born. So if you're born on the 5th, that's when your houses kick in for that month. So for her, every house would have been on the 31st. So let's see. Yeah, so for the book launch month, Neptune and Jupiter would have both ruled the second house. So she was getting some great results trine to the MC, which is her career. So don't get down when you see the T-square or the red lines, in other words, because you can find the path to success. Now, J.K. Rowling's progressions in 1998, and I stand by that, by the way, about launching things in August. I like an August date because it's just, it's the king, it's ordained by God. And why not? Now, part of fortune in the 10th, notice that. That's in her progressions. That would be there for a while. She would experience a lot of success. So always nice when you have part of fortune in your 10th house for a while. It just gives you, now it can be poorly aspected, so it's hard to get to that success. But for the most part, that's what you're supposed to be bringing in. You're supposed to be bringing success into your career, the 10th house. And I mean, look at the Grand Cross. You look at that chart and you're like, ugh, that doesn't look so good. But you've got Pluto in a sextile with Neptune. And this is fantasy. It's in Scorpio, which is wizardry. And it's all happening. It's in this trine. It's doing amazing things for her. Even for 1998, look at how her financial house, she was supposed to get a lot of financial things, but she didn't. And Mercury is in a square to Neptune. So she's having to, maybe drop certain opportunities. It's not all like a bed of roses, but because of that Pluto and Uranus, this is fast success. And again, what's really interesting is for her 7th house, is strong. And that shows that she's not able to get into those bookstores. She's not able to get into that face-to-face necessarily in the beginning with the customers. It's the partners that open the door for her. And so you can see that in her birth chart, or in her progress chart. All right. There's Elon Musk. Oh, I want to talk to you. It's always nice to have a grand trine in, Gemini especially. So the more you talk, the more success that you have. So, all right. Now, Elon Musk, he's been famous and successful, it seems like, forever. And this is his birth chart. Now, You are what's good about his birth chart is the second house, a little bit like MrBeast is in Regulus territory. This is the gold, all right? And the sun is in the 12th house. It's a secretive way of making money. And it squares Uranus. So it can show that, yes, he's bringing in a lot of money, but suddenly he loses it, or there are upsets with his money. So that's part of that square there. Aries MCs tend to be, I mean, they're business people and very motivated people. You'll see a lot of people in business Aries having Aries. And what's interesting too is he's got Venus in Gemini. So it's right on the cusp too of the 12th house. This can be charitable organizations, but also secrets. And trining Mars in Aquarius. The more he thinks about visionary things, about tech, about engineering, about Mars in outer space, okay, the more he's going to bring in money. He loves to talk about Mars and living on Mars. Gemini to talk. Venus loves trining Mars. Will it happen? I don't think so. I think it's ridiculous. Okay, so here's his progressed house. This is the first year where I believe he sold his company. And look at the second house. So when you're looking at your charts, it can be progressed, solar return chart, of course, birth chart. But if you don't see it in your birth chart, you can see that you're going to have a pretty good year if you've got a bunch of planets in the second house. And again, we've seen this where the second house ruler is in a T square. So there might be negotiation problems. There might be, okay, I was supposed to get 50 million, but I settled for 25 million. That would be like the T square. So a really tough call, But for the most part, what do we have here in the 12th house? This is where it's okay too if all of this is in the 12th house, because the 12th house normally is like losses. It goes away, it disappears. And sometimes that can be the case with Elon Musk, because he'll take something and then he'll just spend $100,000 like he did that year. I believe it was that year, maybe it was 99, where he buys like a Ferrari. So then it's going to become an expense. But if you have all of these planets, not to worry, in the 12th house, and you're still having some good aspects to it, it's a very good thing, and something that you shouldn't be worried too much about. The second house, wealth. Now we've got Black Moon Lilith in there, which means being a little bit devious as to how you are pitching yourself maybe, or your product. But look at how progressed. Remember, this is his progressed. Saturn moves to the 10th house. Let's see. Saturn is in the 11th house in his birth chart. So suddenly it's in the 10th. And he's going to be there for a while. He is out there. It's in Gemini. He's speaking. He wants to communicate. This has to do with data. His data, Uranus, was the whole reason that he became rich. Not just, I shouldn't say data, but creating channels in which to sell data. That's how he got wealthy. Okay. And 98, 99, this is his solar chart. Now look, this looks like a big mess. And it probably was in certain ways in his life. He was stressed out. There have been years where he's had to sleep in his office, or he's in big battles with people. But you'd have to look hard, but you can see how there's this big, nice grand trine, my favorite. And it's got Moon, a benefic in the second. I mean, even if you don't have a grand trine and you have Moon in the second that year, very good. You're going to do well. You're going to get some money. Jupiter on the cusp of his work and work life house, Jupiter, and then the MC. So his career takes off that year. You also have Neptune. I mean, there's a big fight. Neptune is very difficult. He's trying to transform things and transform himself, which is the first house. But he's having a hard time. It's not going to be that year he wants to do everything he wants to do. But you've got, again, Regulus energy. Regulus is here. Venus is close enough. So much Leo. Trining the second house. So look for Leo. Look to see if there are some planets that year that are trining either the second house or the second house lord. So it's so funny that, this would be the year where he would be super successful, but because you've got that, basically you've got part of fortune, and it's tied up with Saturn, which is a delay, and you've got that big T square here. This would be a year where everybody would think that he was a huge success, but it seems as if there were things that were still, they weren't right. They were making him crazy. He would not feel like the success that he thought he would feel that year, even though everybody else thought he was. So that's super, super interesting. You kind of can see a square here, and then you can also see a trine at the same time to Mercury. Now, this is his career. So his career isn't where he wants it, but he's still able, to get that goal, that Leo. Pluto and Mercury together, oof, that's talking about transformation. It's talking about Leo-related things, and basically maybe talking about how he's the king, or thinks he's the king at least. So, we've got part of fortune here. It's hemmed up, doesn't look good. But one thing I always say about solar returns, that if you have the sun and there's a good aspect to it, for him it would be the sextile to the MC and also the trine to Mars at the 11th house of hopes and dreams. In other words, you've got good aspects to the sun. That's a great year for you. If you've got all of these red lines going towards the sun, you might be very successful that year, but you feel low vitality. You don't feel confident for whatever reason. And sometimes that can be because people are beating you up, or, they're like, yeah, we'll give you money, but we don't think much about this, or this, and we're kind of disappointed about it. And it could also be your health too. Sometimes with the sun, your body, you're working so hard that you're not maintaining a healthy lifestyle. This is a really big year for him, 1999 to 2000. This is, look at that second house. This is really when, I believe it was, this is Tesla here. So you can see how Saturn, now this is his progressed house. Saturn's still in that 10th house, and look at what is forming for him in the progressed. It is Pluto, part of fortune, trine Saturn. This is a long success, and it's super powered because of that Pluto in the second house. Not only that, but it's a point of Thales, which is this right angle, and Jupiter fuels it. It just keeps pumping, resources, and people want to give them money. That's basically what it is. You've got, the 8th house is investors. So Jupiter and Neptune both represent investors. So you've got investors coming from all different sides here. And there are some, it looks like, that don't like him very much, which would be on this side, that T square. but doesn't matter because the rich ones are coming in and that's what he is getting. So it's really good. North Node, that's to receive. The 7th house is customers that year. So he would receive new customers, all trining the 2nd house. So some would like his product because you can see some squares and, it's not perfect. But again, you can see that trine there. All right. Thanks, Valerie. Little by little, I'm hoping for tomorrow I'll finally sound normal again. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. And I just wanted to remind you all that I've got a super wealth reading, limited time. So check it out on my astrology with val.as.me site. I will be looking at the Karen Reed case tomorrow during the trial. So let's look at it together. Interested in what you think about that. Thanks, Melanie. And I also have, we're going to talk about JLo's chart and JLo's prediction. So we are talking about divorce this week. So keep an eye on the community tab. I think I'm going to be doing that on Wednesday. And of course, we've got some true crime coming up. Let me know what you'd like me to cover. I was thinking Coburger this week. Anything else that you're interested in, I'll definitely consider. So thanks, guys, and have a great day.